let's go ahead and get started. So, just by way of introduction, I'm Kevin LaRue from SlickPic, and I'm joined by my colleague Sam Burson. We run a company that helps photographers make online portfolio websites that are built for photographers and also securely share photos online using powerful, robust galleries. A lot more to it, but last week we were graced with Bob's presentation of a review of our monthly submissions for our 52-week photo challenge. It's a challenge that we have, kind of helping people get assignments and every week and shoot and grow as a photographer. So that presentation was a tour de force, I will say. So many terrific insights, but one of the things we didn't get to was some of the post-processing tips that I could just tell Bob was on the seat of on the edge of his chair, wanting to jump right into Lightroom or some of the post-processing software and help reinforce some of the lessons he was teaching us during the review. So we said, hey, why don't we do another session? And here we are today. So welcome everyone, and I'd like to turn the floor over to Bob DiNatale here to do his thing.
All right, guys. Kevin, how you doing? Can you hear me pretty good here?
I can hear you great.
Okay, great. Yeah, lots of thoughts as I saw the photos the last time, and the exposures it's hard on the screen because you're doing it on your screen, my screen, but I looked at some of the photos, and so I'm prepared to kind of go pretty fast pace here. I got a lot of examples, and I don't think I'm going to get to all of them, but I'll jump around and try to cover a lot of the techniques that we talked about. For those of you here last week, I mean, www.bob.dinatale, you can get a hold of me there. I went over my background. I think maybe what's important, it's kind of interesting. You see me, I'm running this through Lightroom, and I have my thumbnails on the right-hand side. So I just added this. My background, it is what it is. It could be impressive, it could not, but the photographs are important. And my site is up on SlickPic. You could take a look at that. But all of what I'm talking today and all of this background is, I think, pretty well summated in my two books. And on the optimum exposure and processing the digital image. We're talking about a lot of processing today. If this time I may have a few images to talk about the optimum exposure. Last week, I did a review of these four sections: architecture, panorama, macro, and black and white. And I talked about that time of what you look for when you review images, or even when you look at your own. There's what made up a good image. And then I put up this J. Mizell book. If anybody's read his book of Light, Gesture, and Color, you get sensitive, and that's hopefully what we'll do here, to be pretty sensitive to our stuff. And J. Mizell had a great quote: "You're responsible for every part of your image, even the parts you're not interested in." Or that may be the stop sign in the upper left, or the wire in the upper right, and the general overall exposure. No matter how you took it, you're responsible for it, or you're responsible for not showing it if it's not ready. I talked about the craft and creativity and how they work together, and it's interesting. I talked about us being photographer processors, because that's what we are. We did slides. If you shot film, we took it to a lab. You were the photographer. Someone else processed it, but that's not the way it is now. And I talked about this idea of this shokunin. It's a Japanese term, where the artisan and the master of both the art and the craft. There's something we all strive to, whether we get there or not, but it's important. And I talked about the three parts of the processing or making a digital image. Capture is important. The optimum capture is important. Processing and output. Now, today we're going to talk about the processing for sure. And I talk about the 4 phases, and I will show you this. It's just the core of all of my processing, and you'll see it over and over again. Once you capture it, you got to bring it into your computer, in your software. Processing's being done there. You should look into what's being done there. You want everything that gets done all the time, sharpening, whatever you do, your profiling, everything comes in at that point because it's the same baseline. Then you do your global processing, then specific selective areas, as you can see here with the green shuttered window. And then I talk about expressive because I took the grade under the window here off. That happens on really your selected photos that you like and you want to work on. I've been using Lightroom forever in Photoshop, and so we're talking about the photographer's subscription here. So everything I do will be doing it there. And intent, it's an important thing. I wish I could have asked all the photographers of the images I reviewed, what was your intent? And sometimes you have an intent when you shoot. Sometimes when you come back, you recall it when you're in front of your screen. But ask yourself, what is my purpose here? And that's all of our processing should be working towards that. Now, there are some obvious things, like look at the upper right-hand corner here. I don't know if it's a roof. I don't know if it's the edge of a slide mount. I doubt it. But you're responsible for that. So just when you take a photograph, and unless you're really working on drastic Dutch angles, I mean, we probably always want the horizon line to be straight. I mean, that's what we want to do. And if we take this wonderful color, what is the intent here? Well, if you saw this, you would probably be in awe of the color. And well, so if that was your intent, and I think if you remember, I said something about if you're really good at being subtle, nobody will know. Listen, if you got knocked out because of this beautiful color, and I'm going to start going through, I'm going to go into develop mode. I'm using Lightroom here as a presentation device, but I want you to see this image here, right? This is the first image, and this is the second image. And I'm going to talk a lot about snapshots, but you see this is what was sent. This was auto tone. I got to say something about auto tone here. That's this little button here. I want to show you the histogram. And when you save snapshots, it's not like the history. I could change whatever I change here, but these snapshots are a point in time. So if I'm here and I hit auto tone, I want you to notice this histogram in the top right. And people who don't know a lot about histograms feel they're missing something and they should know more. No, there's not a lot to get from a histogram. What you should see here is that auto tone, well, this is kind of a technical term, swells the histogram. What's happening here? It is, it's Adobe's adjustment to optimize the data it sees. It's adaptive technology. What does that mean? Auto, what it does with this photo, is not the same auto that it does on this photo. Because if I look at the histogram here and I hit auto tone, so what is it doing? It's trying to optimize the data it sees. It creates data from the data you have. So as my mantra is with exposure and not with exposure, you try to capture as much data as you can, and then your processing is better. And matter of fact, not only is your processing better, this auto tone is better because the auto has more data to create data with. Now, some people say, every time I use AutoTone, it really never gets me where I want to go. It's not the intent of AutoTone. It's trying to optimize your data. So you could see how, I'm going to go back to the first one here. The first AutoTone here tries to find a black point, a white point. If you have little shadows, it spreads. If you have a lot of highlights, it tries to optimize it. And then here is where you're asking yourself, what is the intent? Oh boy, if you could just see the colors that were there. And that was, and I use snapshots a lot. Part of it, it's great for teaching. Part of it is a good creative process, because I may say, I was pretty good to here, or I change it and I come back. Remember, Kevin, you asked last time, is it good sometimes to come back and review your images? You'll see some of the adjustments I made when I came back and reviewed the images for today's class. And went, oh, I need to lighten those shadows a little more, because you get desensitive if you spend 20, 30 minutes on it, you walk away. So, and you can see this vibrance channel here. And look at, I don't know numbers, but by the way, when we hit AutoTone, you can see that Adobe changed the vibrance of 12. And I want to show you the difference between vibrance and saturation. This just blows color out. Saturation makes all the colors more saturated. Vibrance, it takes the most saturated colors and saturates them least, and the least saturated. So it's doing a real intelligent kind of, I'm not just making all the colors bright. I'm going to leave the bright ones alone, but the ones that are a little down there. And I'll tell you what's very smart about this. There's a void around flesh tone. So if you did this and there was a person standing there, it doesn't take the oranges up. It's so well thought of. So now you can see what I did. That was the capture. That was what was sent in. That was just an AutoTone. I optimized it and I went to vibrance. If you look at this one here. Now, looking at the histogram, this is not good. There's not a perfect histogram, but when you make an exposure, and it's a very dark exposure, I get it. You've got all your data just squashed here. If you open this up 3 stops, it would be so much lighter than you really wanted, but when you made it darker, you'd have more tonality. So you don't want to stick this exposure to the left as much as you can here. Now look at the AutoTone here, and it spreads it out. It knows where dark is. This is interesting. This is a black point. And if I did this, you'll notice this black slider here. And again, most photos need a good black point. If I hold the alternate key down, click this, I know the sky is dark, but I'm going to take it down a little more just so I can start getting something down here. Now, by the way, you can't look at a number. You want to go for a feel of it, but very few photos work without a black point unless you're high key or working in the fog, Now it looked a little dark to me, and I brought it up. It was just very interesting here, because when I bring it up, I don't really lose my black point, because watch what happens here. You see in my histogram, see this light gray bar as the highlights. Matter of fact, if I move it, you'll see the highlight move down. This here is, by the way, excuse me, this is the white. This is the whites. This is the highlights. This is the exposure. So they've cordoned off pretty well. There's 5 different node points here, and here are the blacks. So it's possible for me to get a black point, then change the exposure without the black point moving. And if you said, Bob, That's interesting. I'll try to keep that in mind, but you ruined your photo. No, no, I didn't ruin my photo because it's in a snapshot, and that remembers all of your data. And this is non-destructive because it's all raw on a raw image. We're all shooting raw, although these were uploaded as JPEGs. And of course, unless you're trying to make an expression here, let's straighten up the straight line. And you could do that very easily in the crop tool. You could straighten it up with the grid or whatever. Sometimes this crop tool works pretty well. You know, you could line it up wherever you are. And I'm going to go back here. Or you could use this transform. This transform is pretty good for vertical lines. And that's not that. You can always get that horizontal line, and you can change these around. So let's keep moving on. So some of these are pretty obvious. By the way, I don't know, can you see? I'm going to leave that up there for a second, this grid. I like this grid. If I hit the letter O, the letter O, the letter O, the letter O, the letter O. You see, this is the rule of thirds, vertical. This is the Nautilus. I love this one. I love this one here. Oh, and the next one. It cuts the horizontal and vertical of the diagonal line. It's pretty cool. And that's a good place to put the subject. So that looks a little strange to you, I'm sure. But now look at this. If I look at this and I look at this final result, now I don't know what the intent was, but I'm making the intent because I don't have the opportunity to talk to the photographer of this one. But the first thing I'm going to do is hit autotone. Always hit autotone. And you'll see it distributes the histogram. I don't care. I just want it optimized. Now, this case, it may be a little dark. And what do you do next? In my book, I talk about what's next after autotone. Well, how about the most egregious thing? This still looks a little heavy to me. So I went and changed the exposure. And it may be subtle here, but watch the exposure here. You know where that is. I can take it up here. And if the mountains look good, but the sand or the wooden walkway look too bright, it's okay. You get the best you can, because then we'll go into some masking here. I want to tell you, some people have luck with the slider or not slider, whatever. You'll see me when I do this processing, double clicking the exposure here, gets it to 0. I click right inside here. And if I hold the shift key, I can go up, 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 down, 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 up, down, up. That's a good place to start for me. So first thing is autotone. Then the next is the most egregious. Oh, wait a minute. Is everybody seeing that, or am I the only one seeing this thing? I got some text up here.
Everyone sees those comments.
All right. Well, that's okay. No, whatever
cool.
It is. If it's something
comment.
important, you can let me know. And now after here, the exposure, I hit the saturation. Now this looks nice to me. Is it oversaturated? I'm not worried. It's non-destructive. Let me see what I do when I get my shadows. I opened up the shadows. Well, I need a black point and a white point. And I usually do this when I get here. All I have to do is hold the alternate key. Remember the black point? Just slide it. And holding the alternate key with the white point does the same thing. So you just want to get some whites in there. So there's some whites in there. So, and the interesting thing, I don't know if I like this. I think the last three versions ago, you just roll over these and it changes automatically. I wish it didn't. But so you see my shadows, you see the white point, and then how about a vignette? And the vignette kind of holds it all together. So you see the original If at this point you think it's too saturated, you could either, you see what I'm doing? I'm going inside the saturation. If I hit the down arrow, it goes from 50 to 49 to 48 to 47. I can never see those changes. I hold the shift key down and then they go down by units of 10. So I'm not worried so much about, did I make it too saturated? What about my shadows? What about my black point, white point? Here's a vignette. And then as I stare at it now, I don't know what you're seeing. I may think, you know, it looks a little hot to me. Watch this now. 1, 2, 3. I'm coming down a little, and I don't know, that was 30 points. See the difference? Now, if I like that, I can either make another snapshot or I can hover over the last one, update it, and say, update with current settings. I'm going to talk about masking and dodging and burning and Ansel Adams and all of that. It's all built into what we're doing. Let me go to another one, and this, I'll go by these quickly now because you kind of see what I'm doing here. This is what was posted, and this is how I changed it. Now, again, I don't know your intent, but if you like the heaviness of the ceiling, deal with the ceiling differently. But as you can see, this was the capture. This was the auto tone, and you can see the histogram change a little bit. And then this was the friendly pairs. I call them the friendly pairs. It's in the book. I misspelled this. You know, it's not critical. I'm going to put a bracket here. I usually do it to say, hey, I like this point. It's time to go to bed. It's time to stop and eat and come back. The friendly pairs is two that are very interesting to me, and they work so well for me. If I take the contrast down, I'm double clicking this, it's 0. If I take the contrast down, notice all the detail? Looks a little dead, but it's nice detail. Well, its friendly pair would be the texture. See this come back now? And the texture, the clarity, these all go up in the effect. Basically, what's happening here is this texture is probably looking at 1 pixel either side. This is looking at 3 pixels either side, and this is more. Just remember, it goes from subtle to medium, and dehaze is like, give it a shot. It's just hard to get. So now look at, here's my capture. Here's the auto tone. Here is the friendly pairs, and you see my contrast is down and my texture is up. And then this was just a white point. This was really subtle. I think I just, yeah, see what I did here? I just watched this white point. So it looks like it says 5. Now it says 54. And what is that? I don't know. You know, oh, no, it's the shadows, excuse me. Well, wait a minute. I got white points there. No, those are bright lights. This is the ceiling. So again, this is all without masking. This is pretty simple stuff here. And remember, you can do this with black and white or color. And was sent in. And remember, anything I do here, so this was the auto tone. These were the darks. I made them darker. I changed the exposure, and then I took in the shadows. So again, I'll go into more of these here. I want to address something else here too, because I noticed what was sent in. I mean, it's a beautiful image, and I don't know what the crop is and how it was cropped that way. Maybe it's reaching up to the sky. You know, it's the photographer's expression. But I wanted to mention something about cropping. And I noticed on the images I look at, here's autotone, here's exposure. This is interesting. I scaled this up, and that's this, people use this one here an awful lot. And where you shoot raw is all of this is non-destructive. I scaled this down actually, so I could see more of the white around it. And then I used a crop. And you see my crop here says 16 by 9. When you crop, try to use a whole number or something like a 5 by 7 so you can print it, or whatever you want. If you take this off, people say, oh, this is nice crop here. And someone says, great, that's great, I love it. Can you get me a print? Yes. And what size print am I making for you? So usually once I get my desired crop, I try to look and see if there is anything, because there are 16 by 19 frames all over the place. And that's what I did here. Once I scaled it just to let me see more, I went into my 16 by 9 crop. So on the cropping, look at cropping is personal, although I don't think it should be random without some standard format. And cropping is abused. Let's not go there. And I look at something like this. Sometimes, if you look at this, if this is 1800 pixels by 2400 pixels, yeah, I don't know, it's not an easy format there. That's 9 and 27. I usually go into my cat. That's not a standard format. It's a nice picture. This is what I did finally. And you can see this is the original picture. This is auto. Now, once I hit auto, I said, boy, this is a whole interesting thing. I never saw that wonderful color green here. And I could selectively go in there with masks if I want. But now that I see what's in my capture, because that's what all autotone show me a lot, then I'll go and adjust it. And then I went to a curve, and then a crop. And I'm pretty sure it's a standard crop because 4 by 3rds work. I could put a 4 by 5. I could do a different crop. If you like the 35 millimeter 2 by 3. I don't know if you ever use this, hitting the L key on your keyboard. See everything get grayed out a little. Hit the L key again, it goes black. Hit the L key again, it comes back to normal. So if this is a 35 millimeter, you're going to find frames like that. So I like to use the L key a lot. Gives me a sense of what's happening here. So whatever kind of crop you like, but don't make it just be random because you have a crop tool. I'm going to hit the letter L. It all goes black. The letter L, it comes back. So this was the crop. This is interesting. This is now trying to interpret what the photographer who shot it, but I wanted to make you aware of this tone curve. Now, you get two kind of tone curves here, right? And if you're good at either knowing how to do this, there's a little tool that you could pick up and say, give me the white point over there and how to bring that down. But a lot of people, I'm going to go back here. This parametric curve is pretty interesting because you can see it cordons them off into 4. These are the darks. See how it tries to raise the dark? These are the lights. I can bring them down. These are the shadows. What a lot of people don't know is this quadrant here is the shadows. This quadrant here is the darks, lights and highlights. It's obvious. Well, how about if I just change and give myself more darks to work with? These guides can be adjusted. It's a powerful tool. Take a look at that tool. Again, a crop. I wanted to show this because if that's the way you liked it, that's great. I mean, I did this. I was seeing the highlight of the road. But what's really interesting, if I go to a crop, you can see this is a 1:3 ratio. That's easy to find either frames that are 1:3, or you get a rail that's 3 times the width that is the height. You can put them together. If you look here, they have built in 1:1 to 4/3, 16/9, and then you can actually type in, enter a custom, and you can see I put in a 13:9 because there are a lot of frames there, an 11:14. They don't have it up there, and I put 1:2, 1:3, and 1:4. So I could do this, hit the L tool, and say, oh, okay. So be sensitive to your cropping. I'm going to hit the L to turn the lights off, turn the lights on, and I'm going right back to my 1/3 crop. I want to show you something else here with the vignette tool. When you make a vignette tool, and I'm going to go here to show you this because we're going to start talking a little bit about maskings. The vignette tool is pretty interesting because I do it with the gradient. So if I went here, here's what I want you to know about this. When you go into your masks, when you go into your mask and you hit your radial gradient, I want to highlight the road. Well, that's everything but the road. So there is a little button here that says invert it. And you don't have to put too much here. By the way, Adobe likes to refer to these as one stop. Oh, yeah. So holding the shift key down here, it does it like in thirds of a stop. You can type that number. So I just like a 0.33 just to get it started. And you can see if I go over this, shut it off, turn it on. Okay, I think I got this here. And it'll show you, oh, it's supposed to be a minus 0.33. So it gets just a little darker. Watch this. And I always shut off and turn on my. Now, when you hover over this, I can take this, I can rotate it, I can stretch it out. Maybe I'll rotate it this way and have it go up the road, make it a little wider, make it a little stubbier. The nice thing about this doesn't have to be in the middle. Now, once you make that, I can now always be in the habit of turning on and off the masks. I'll talk a little. And that will work many, many times. I go and I adjust the mask, and here, look what I did. I made another snapshot so you could see that all I did here with the mask, I changed the color. You see, there was no color temperature here when I changed it here. The nice thing about this is you can make all these adjustments. And so when you crop, try to keep it normal. You'll see I use that vignette in most all of it. All right, 133. Oh, they got to roll. Keep on moving. I want to talk a little bit about masks here because I got a slide for this. Ansel Adams said, dodging and burning are steps to take care of mistakes God made in establishing tonal relationships. Look, it always isn't the way you want it. If anybody's seen, these are like selective adjustments, and this is our masking. This is what we have. And if anybody's seen Ansel Adams' Moonrise and Hernandez, I mean, it's just gorgeous. It's an interesting story. It's on the internet if you want to hear and speak about it. But this was the exposure. But he knew that if he could capture it, and he didn't overexpose it or underexpose it, was all based on the moon and the exposure. And the upper left is what he shot, the lower right is what ended up, and the upper right were his notes for dodging and burning. I'm going to take the left side. His book, the print, explains what all of these symbols mean. And I think the lower right one, you could see he was holding the shadows and he was vignetting the sky. And he had to do this for every print. Well, these are Lightroom snapshots. You want to use these because it is a creative tool. That's what you see me use a lot, because you can do a lot of what ifs. And that's the third part of the 4 phases, doing the selective. So when I look at a picture like this was a gorgeous moment. It's a great photograph. It wasn't presented as best it could. Well, look at this. And I'm going to go back to my develop, and I'm going to show you. I'm going to go quickly here, but that was the exposure that was submitted. This was nothing but autotone. Look at the histogram. Hey, it didn't take it all the way to the right. It didn't need to. That's not what it does. There's only a few white tusks in there. Didn't need it. However, in this one here was a mask. And I separated the big elephant from the small elephant. If I shut off my masks. Now, the nice thing about masks, when you look at these things, if you say, maybe it was a little too much, maybe it was a little too little, maybe I want to change it. Let's take a look at the big elephant. So if the big elephant looks like it had some exposure to it, highlights to it, what you need to know about masks, which is so important. So I like to name them. You see it says big elephant here? It just says mask 1. It was a little lazy. Could have said small elephant here. But it's got this wonderful amount slider that says, maybe I was a little too aggressive. Maybe I want to take it down. Maybe I want to give it more. It's an amazing tool. And of course, now no one asks anymore. They said, but it's the turn of digital. You said, you think Ansel Adams would have wanted to do this? If Ansel Adams knew this was available to him, he'd jump out of his grave. I mean, we got some magic tools here. Take a look at this one. This was what was sent in. This is the final. The same. Now, if you shot this raw, let's pick this apart. Now you're getting to see, here is step 0. It's a capture. It came in. Look at, I did nothing here, but go right to step 3, which was the cat. I filled the whole thing up here, and I went to color, and I said desaturated. Then I went in, right? This is the, see the mask? I grabbed the left eye and I grabbed the right eye. And I'll tell you what, when you get something like this, it's embarrassingly easy. You take, you're not selecting the sky, you're not a background, there's no people. You're going to use object probably more than anything here. Let it do its thing. It's a mess. So we'll hit Control C. As a matter of fact, when you do the object, you know, you don't even have to fill it in. It looks at the bounds and it'll fill it in. I'm going to go here. And it's trying to find it. Oops, did I ever shut off? Okay. So you use the object tool an awful lot here. So you can see, here is the brush that I made, filled it up. And if you hover over it, that was all of that, was the eye. And then this was the final result. When you're looking at something like this, it's a gorgeous photograph. But if you look at it, this is a better one. Well, if you ask the photographer who shot it, they may say, well, I see what you're doing here. I'm not too sure it was in a dark alley. Watch this. We go here. This was the capture. Here's the auto tone. I changed the exposure. I changed the shadows. I got the stairs. I changed the exposure again. I want you to know that 2, remember the second step is global. This is a global adjustment. This is a global adjustment. This is global. That's all of these sliders here. The stairs is selective, which means it's a mask. No mask. Then, when I'm all done, I'm looking at this, and remember, 4 was expressive. This is where you come back, or this is where you say, I don't want to mess up too much here, but I think I'm going to take the exposure down. I think I'm going to make the shadows, you can see if I hover over here, it's just a shadow slider in the stairs. Now, again, once you come back and look at it, say, Bob, this is great. Well, look at, if you say, maybe the stairs, I was too much with the stairs. Maybe I can. Now, you're not changing individual sliders here. You're saying whatever that mask was, it doesn't change the numbers. It just changes the amount that's being affected. So now you start looking at these things, and this was another one that someone sent in. It was great. Now, it's all about your intent, and it's all about expressive. And then you get excited about this, and maybe you get too aggressive, but you've done all your work. Here's the auto tone. Okay, background, auto tone. Nice, I get the feel of the fog in the background. This is the bird. And now you can see that here was the bird. And here's a background again. What I did was I got the bird and inverted it. And let me go here and show you how I got the bird. Sometimes it could be as easy as subject. Yeah, like that. And then whatever you want, you totally have control of it. So all I did was I created the bird, ran some sliders over it. And again, sometimes if you want to see the effect, if you do this, you may look at this and say, nice. Do you see do you see the lower tail here? See how it's getting lighter with the rest of it? I don't want to subtract from this. And that's the difference. So it holds the bird up, right? It's dark in the bottom left. So that's the power of these masks. They're so creative. And here's the bird. I just flipped the bird. I guess that's what I did. I guess, well, look at, I just took this and said, duplicate and invert the mask. Everything else that I didn't want, that I didn't have before. And then I changed a little dark, and I said, I'm all done. 2 is global, 3 is selective, 4 is expressive, and saying, I want to just bring his beak back a little. One of my pet peeves is someone says, you've got to get it right in the camera. I've been photographing for a long time, and you have to get it right in the camera if you're shooting 35mm slides. There is no ability to dodge and burn. If you're doing black and white, negative, you can dodge and burn on the easel. You can do whatever you want. To get it right in the camera is to get the right exposure. And the right exposure is never the final exposure. The right exposure is probably what people would think of much too light in digital. That's the exposure to the right. So what's Cartier-Bresson, this decisive moment, the photographer caught the decisive moment. The craft of that photographer was said, now that I got it, I'm shooting at a plus 1 1/3 stops or 2/3. I'm making sure I have more data so I can show as many of the feathers as I can. So you see the power we're sitting with here. If you take a look at this one, and I think the one that was posted was a little darker. Matter of fact, I think I have it in the scent. No. Crop. It was a little darker, but here's what I want to show you. Look at this final result here. Now, if see all these masses just coming up here. I hear my hard drive running here. Okay, so if you like that or you don't like that, or you like it because you went and you did an auto tone, then you cropped it to be maybe square. Maybe you took it black and white. Different ways of doing black and white. You can turn it to black and white, or you can try to adjust it with a strong curve. But once you get it close, you say, well, I'm going to work on the sky. I'm going to work on the shed. I'm going to work on the inside. See what's happening there. And then this is the dirt. Now, I'm still exploring the photograph. And then maybe this is the bushes, because I noticed initially they were really dark, the bushes. See the bushes go dark? And to get the bushes dark, again, once I click it, you can see this was pretty easy. It took 2 brush strokes. I went, here's the brush, and I took another one. And when you make masks like this, if they're not exact, try making your adjustments. Sometimes they don't need to be. They need to be when when you bridge the sky and stuff like that, real bright edges. And here are the arch. Well, so I'm done doing all my selection. Now this gets to me to the 4th phase, which is expressive. I'm getting to the arch. I'm just changing the shed a little darker. I'm taking the inside a little darker. I'm adding a vignette. I'm readjusting the sky brighter. All I'm doing is going here and taking my sky. And when I look at the sky here, I can go ahead and affect the amount I want. So sometimes when I work on something like this, I get to this point and I say, no, I'm satisfied. That's how I get to the point. I come back and say, maybe the arches need to be here, maybe the shed, maybe the inside, maybe the vignette, maybe the sky. And I think, what did I do here? It looks like I upped the shadows. I did the shadow slider. So when you look at what's happening here to the left, the vignette was very cool. I made a normal vignette, but I didn't like the way it took away the clouds. Look at this. See this vignette? Here's the radial vignette. And you see this brush? I just went in and swept with this brush to subtract that area. So I always shape my vignettes. I make them and then I may shape them from there. How are we doing for time here? Oh, 10 minutes or one?
Yeah, hey, we got about 10 minutes. I was just about to pipe in here.
That's all right. Let me
That's
go
a great edit, by the way. I enjoyed that very much.
Well, you know, if I sent you that file, you could have add all those masks to your creative effect. Take a look at this one and take a look at this one. It may be subtle. I think I might have mentioned this. Look at my computer's running. Now, take a look at what's happening here. This is a ascent. And the first thing you're going to do is hit auto. It opens up, it shows you all your detail. Then the exposure, I'm taking it down. But this is the magic. This one here, this lens blur, This is the silliest thing you'll ever see in your life, but it is crazy. I'm just all automatic. I can change the amount. I can change the bokeh. This one was kind of there. So it knocks out the background. And then as I look at this, I said, let me get the background. And I just knocked it down. So you see, I went from this exposure to the lens blur to the background. And I thought, well, if I'm softening all this up, what if I soften the woman? I went in there. If you'll notice, I put a minus clarity, which sometimes you look at how hard that is. And if you like it and you come back to it, I want to go into another aspect that's pretty important here. I'm going to get, I'll do a couple of more, and it's, we're processing, we talked about masking. Now we're going into, I want to talk a little bit about non-destructive and try to get this concept. Maybe we'll have another class, we'll talk about it more. We're shooting optimum exposure as best we can. It's in the books. Shooting raw. We're processing raw. Then if we have to make other adjustments, we're going to open it up in Photoshop. Don't think of it as, oh, that's another software. It's a software that does things that Lightroom doesn't. And that once you process that, that is your master. And you're going to do Lightroom non-destructive edits to that Photoshop master. So you have your original, and I'll show that in a second. And why do we want to work non-destructive? I can't stress this part more than, maybe more than the next thing I'm going to show you, because we're going to get better. The software is going to get better. We know that, but we'll get better and we'll get smarter. And we'll say, I didn't know I could do that. You're not starting back with pixels from day one. This will maintain all your edits non-destructively. Take a look at this image. Now we know that we can straighten this image up. And let me go here and show you. Let me go back into develop. Got a couple of quick more, and I'm going to go into Topaz a quick second. Here's what was sent. Here's the auto. Nice. It distributed it. It's dark. Change the exposures, lighten the shadows. This thing is just miraculous if you've never done it. This is alternate. I'm going to reset the uprights. Look at this. This guide. Take this one. Take this one. And maybe I'll take a third one on the horizontal and see how we get it here. Faster. Look at that. All straightened up. That's what this was. So I took care of the shadows. I took care of this. I went into my standard 4:5 crop right here. And then I went, oh, let me get this one. Because I didn't like how close the building was to the right. So you just move it. Well, now you move it and you really have, you know, you have no picture there. Well, this is where you, when you open up, and this is the non-destructive, this is your raw file. You've done all the work. You say edit, edit in, open as a smart object in Photoshop. Why you're opening up as a smart object is that it does not change any of your data. See this? It says 52-week arch. This is a smart object. If I double click it, it shows all different words, lens calibration, optics, it calls it optics here. It shows all the effects. It's all your raw data. And now, I'm not going to save this. Just take a look at this. Oh my. See this area here. If you select it, hit generative fill and hit generate, it's going to fill that in. And now it will complete your composition. It gives you 3 options. It takes this one, and this one. And I want to show you something. If I go back to the layers and shut it off, oh, there's a car there. There's a, looks like, nobody's going to really know. But if you say, hey, that's not the best one. That's not even right. No. Well, when you make this selection, if you make a selection, just a little wider, it's going to investigate. And this should now extend the building a little more. You see, the first time I grabbed too much with the rectangle. But here, I think we'll probably get a bit. So when you fill these out, look at this. And I'll go back here to take a look at it. All right, the black continues. I'll go to my properties. Great. And I'm going to take this one and delete it and delete it. I don't need it. So then when I save it, you're going to see this result. I got 2 more I want to show you. Take a look at this one. It's a great photo somebody shot here. This was the short. This is what I finished up with. And I think it will show a lot of what we were talking about here. If I take this, hit auto tone, see, it's trying to do something. I lighten the shadows. This number 3A, my first, this was a mask. And here was the bridge. Sometimes you want to open and click this on and off so you can see it. This was the bridge. And now I changed the horizon line. I just simply, I probably went in and just drew into the crop. Is that what I did? You know, yeah, see the angle here? I can just take this. And you can crop it, you can spin it and do whatever you. And then I scaled it back. And when I scaled it back, now this is, I'm going to show you something here. I think I'm going to, in the sake of time here, go to this one. Edit in. Because I've already worked on this and I want to show it to you, I'm going to edit the original. Look at this. This one here, I went in and I selected it and I just did this generative fill. You can see it here. And you can do something like this by, when you want to fill them both up, is by, look at this rectangle. I'm going to do this really fast for you guys because I want to complete, and I'm going to add to it this. And I'm going to add to it this. And I'm going to try to do this in one fell swoop. Now there's issues with resolution, but I'm not sure that's going to. And now when you hit generate, I could say here, purple flowers. and it's going to try to put purple flowers there. If I put nothing, it's going to look at its surroundings. And here's the part I want you to be aware of. We did our raw processing, auto tone, masking on the bridge, straightening it out. Look at this. This is crazy. This is totally insane. See this one? We don't want this one. And by the way, you could go ahead and just hit regenerate, and it'll generate another set for you till you like it. But here's where you want to work non-destructively. You want to shoot raw, process raw, open it up as a smart object. And then when you are, it saves it back in Lightroom, right? Because this is where we were. This was the, and then continue on with your shadows, with your black point, with your vignette. And this was a change in my vignette. You see, this one here, I just opened up the little pool in the front. So the fact that it was a Photoshop file, I am still going to use non-destructive processing. This Photoshop file has your raw file in it, and now you're processing the Photoshop file with raw data, and it never changes. I think I may just show you these maybe for shock and awe. I don't know. Someone sent this beautiful flower in. This was nothing but topaz. If I take right mouse click, edit in Photoshop, I've already done work on it, so I'm editing the original. See this? This is a topaz filter. Do not use topaz in Lightroom. It's destructive. It doesn't do the best job. It's a compromise, and you have no recourse. I don't know if it was today, yesterday, I just upgraded to the latest topaz. I think it's 4.2 now, 4.02. I have features I didn't have a week ago when I double click. Because a smart object, when you use a filter, it makes a smart filter. That is editable. Now that I know how to use it and know how to use a mask, I don't have to sharpen everything. I can just use topaz to select specific. And you see, this is what I used. It remembers it. I'll make it, you see, it's over sharpened now. And what I'm saying is, I have not changed the pixels. I'm applying an algorithm to this. And I'm going to cancel this. So again, close it, don't see it. What I want you to know is, look at this.
Yeah, did a great job there, Bob.
It's amazing.
We are up against our limit here, sir, but this has been just amazing. I know you've got, I mean,
look at this.
That's out of control.
and you know, the only thing with this one is when I use topaz.
Right.
I just selectively sharpen the bead.
Yeah, I haven't used Topaz AI, Sharpen AI.
Photo AI is improved. I do, yeah. But anyways, you guys
Good
get
stuff.
You guys get the picture. Look at, I have the books. Can I just mention that?
Absolutely.
Before the end of the month, you know, if you use SlickPic, go up to my site and type in SlickPic, you'll get a 20% discount. But I do personal training. Send me some emails. As I told you the last time, Kevin, I learned so much by doing these things. So if you ever need anybody, you call me. I'm ready.
Well, this is great, and I might have to tune into some of your weekly editing sessions. I sorry if I appeared distracted. I was taking reams of notes in my note taking app over here. You taught me things about Lightroom that I didn't know before. Hey, just a real quick note about that SlickPic code. First of all, thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
Would you mind if we put that out to a wider audience than the
You
folks
mean,
that
would I mind if some more people could buy my book?
I had to ask?
Thank you very much. Send it
Okay,
to the
we'll do it.
world.
We'll
Yeah,
do
matter
it.
of fact, right now it's set up for the end of May, but I could change that date. So sure. And it's on the
Okay.
bundle. It's on the both of them.
On the bundle at all. Okay,
And
sounds good.
again, if anybody has any questions or there was comments, but that's the teaching part of it, maybe we'll go into exposure on one of these too, because it's a shakes hand in
Can you
hand.
repeat the code, please?
Yeah, the code is, what you're going to do is go to www.bob.DiNatale, click on the bundle, because that's the two of them together.
Mhm.
And when it takes you to the store and the invoice, you just type in code SlickPic, and it'll take 20% off.
Okay. All right. Very good.
That sounds great. Well, hey, thanks everybody. Bob, we'd love to have you back at some point. You offered.
I offered and you take it. So you think about it. We'll talk.
Okay.
Sam, thank you so
Sounds
much.
good.
Thank you everybody for the time.
Okay,
I
thank you,
hope
sir.
it worked out.
You
Good enough.
guys all have a great day. And
All right.
be sure to participate in our 52-week photos challenge, and perhaps Bob will edit your photo one day.
I will. I'll look at them. Maybe we'll edit April's. May's. Who knows? Let's talk. Thank you
All
very
right,
much
guys.
for the opportunity. I'll talk to you soon.
See you later.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Bob.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
Okay. You ending it?